Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be bringing you guys a spoiler review and discussion for Dragon Ball Super Broly. Now, if you want to see my non-spoiler review, make sure to check it out on my channel. You could see it in the cards here, as well as the end screen of this video. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce someone who also just saw the movie recently, and you've seen him on my videos in the past. His name is...
Hey guys, what's up? It's Josh from Dragon Ball Nation here.
Okay, Josh, so what we're going to be doing here is we're basically going to be discussing the things that we really liked about the movie, you know, more in depth than we can in a non-spoiler review. And we're also going to be discussing some of the things that we didn't like because, at least in my eyes, even though this was a great addition to the Dragon Ball franchise, and one of my favorite movies of them all, what I would have to say is that there are some things here and there that I wasn't necessarily a fan of. So let's first start with you, Josh. What did you think of Dragon Ball Super Broly?
Well, before I tear this movie apart, which I'm not going to, I saw this movie in Albany, and so I had to drive like an hour to get there. And the theater was really crowded, which is fine. Everyone was clapping at all the big moments, which is fine. I know it was going to happen because I've seen Resurrection F and Battle of Gods in theaters, so you expect the fans to get excited, right? My theater experience was not very good in terms of just people doing random chatter or being on their phones, but as bad as that was, that would ruin any other movie experience. There was so much good stuff happening on screen, and I only saw the movie once, Mike. I don't know how many times you've seen it. I plan on seeing it once or twice more. So if you've seen a movie once, I don't think you can always properly judge it because, fanboyism, even though I try not to be biased, but it is Dragon Ball. It's my favorite show. You don't always pick up on everything the first time seeing a movie.
Especially with a movie like this.
But for me, it was just visually overwhelming. Pacing was fantastic in it. The character of Broly is done complete justice. And, we were talking off air. I mentioned just the basic outline of his character is pretty much the same,
Yeah, exactly.
Quiet when he's not enraged and he's the big dumb monster guy, really. But there's just many scenes with Paragus there and how, Paragus does obviously add to the depth because he was the more in-depth character in the original movies. But yeah. Broly just has a lot more to say here. He has that backstory and how he got his belt, which was that giant monster's ear.
Yeah.
Just Broly was an interesting character, and I thought that the voice actor, which I think is the same voice actor as the old Broly, right?
Yeah, Vic Mignogna.
Same guy. Yeah, well, I didn't want to try to say his name.
It took me forever to actually figure out how to say his last name, too.
Well, it's funny. He's actually really quiet when you hear him in interviews, so it's interesting that he voices this gigantic monster, but there was just so many little things that, it's because it was a much longer movie. Broly was in his base form a lot, so you got to hear him actually have conversations, but he's so primitive because he's been stranded on that planet and hasn't really had any other contact from any really intelligent life at all.
I think a good comparison that I made in my review is that it was like Tarzan, kind of, basically this person who comes from a civilization that has advanced technology, at least comparative to where he goes, and he's raised in the wilderness and he doesn't really understand any of the traditional conventions. He doesn't even, in the movie, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. Broly doesn't even know what water is, normal water.
Right.
I can only imagine what he was just drinking before, maybe sulfuric water or something his whole life.
Well,
so
whatever that, I'm sure those spider legs had some sort of water element to them, but
another thing I really liked too when it comes to Broly and his character, and it's funny that I'm saying that because it really is night and day from the original Broly, like you said, he does have a lot of those similarities that were taken from the original Broly movies and put onto him, the appearance, the fact that he is kind of being controlled by his father Paragus, although in this version he always has his mental faculties about him. The only thing that is really being controlled by is that they're using a shock collar, which I guess makes him seem even more animalistic. Although, another thing that I liked was that when he actually didn't have the threat of the shock collar and he was hanging out with characters like Chi-Lai and Leppo, I believe his name is,
he's not the focus, Mike.
No, definitely not, especially not when it comes to the animators. But, there was some cool scenes like we talked about off air. There was a scene when after Broly is found and recruited by Frieza, he's hanging out with Chi-Lai in the common room, basically, where the Frieza soldiers hang out on the ship and they eat food and they talk. And some drunken Frieza soldier walks up to Chi-Lai and he starts basically hitting on her and like talking shit about her. And, you know, like Broly stands up for her and he's about to like kill this guy. So I thought that was a really awesome scene.
It was about to look like Juggernaut and Deadpool 2.
Yeah, he was going to rip him in half, basically. Broly smash! But, well, yeah, in another way, too. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Well, I was talking to you, Mike. Especially after seeing it once, like I mentioned, you know, personally, I don't pick up on every little detail watching it. I'm so distracted by the spectacle sometimes because, especially with this movie, it was overwhelming how good it looked. It really was. Especially the wide shots where they just show the energy blast themselves with no characters. It doesn't even look like it's an animated film at that point. It almost looks like it's just trying to be almost realistic CGI. So it looks like a really nice color show almost. And then even the CGI elements where they mix they make Broly, Goku, Vegeta CGI when they're all fighting to do different camera angles. Yeah. They looked really good actually, unless they were going on for an extended period of time. Yeah. But when they were blending the animation with the CGI, it looked really good, I thought myself. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't distracting.
I mean, for me, when it comes down to it, like with the CGI, I've never really been a fan of 3D CG being incorporated with like 2D animations, so I didn't mind it anywhere near as much in the previous two Dragon Ball movies, though, because, you know, I've only seen this movie once, too, and, you know, I was really taken aback by the animation. Just like the moment the movie started, you know, when they're on Planet Vegeta and, you know, they're talking about Frieza and they're showing everything, like, I thought it looked amazing just from once it started, you know, for presentation purposes. Yeah, for presentation purposes, I would probably give it like a 9 to a 10, you know, but like when it comes to the other things, like there were little nitpicks I had here and there, but when it comes down to, you know, how they incorporate the CG, like Resurrection F and Battle of God CG looked terrible compared to this, and just in general, they didn't look very good.
No, and they didn't blend them well, just the way they use the shots. Here, I mean, the level of quality is like just so much greater. I mean, Resurrection F and Battle of Gods looked great, you know, aside from those CGI shots. The animation was good, but I don't know like all the technical terms for the animation and all that stuff. I'm not that guy, but I was talking to you off the air about how, you know, most of the time when you're watching anime and something's going to get destroyed, even nowadays, you can usually tell what objects are going to be destroyed just by looking at them. They're like shaded differently and stuff. And upon first viewing, at least, I could not notice that very much in this movie at all, to be honest. I mean, it looked like everything was feasibly, you know, about ready to crumble at any moment, and you just weren't sure what was going to break and what wasn't, right?
Yeah, so, they did a great job with the environmental damage, even though, like, you know, I think that you and I would agree, even though I don't think you care about it really anymore. These characters are so powerful, especially when it comes to, like, the final battle between Broly and Gogeta, which, yes, we're going to talk about soon. And, like, their battle had such a massive, like, swell of power around it that realistically, like, the Earth, the solar system, the galaxy, that whole quadrant of the universe, and the universe itself probably would have been obliterated just by them punching each other, you know?
And that's something that I just, you know, at this point in this series' lifetime, I mean, we can't expect it to be consistent anymore. These characters would be standing still, powered up, and they should be shaking the Earth to near destruction.
Yeah, so Broly just being in his...
that I can't really harp on the movie for, and it's still nice to see it there, like, altering reality by fighting when Vegeta
that part was
fight.
Great.
But it's just something that we can't expect a consistency there, and for me, it doesn't really add any negativity to the movie. I feel like it would make the movie worse if they were trying to be consistent in terms of having these characters, you know, be realistic in terms of what their power would do if they were just basically too strong to fight anywhere. I mean,
well, how cool would it have been, though?
Area not a great place to set this movie?
Yeah, it was a great visual location, and it looked really cool as it was, as they were actually destroying Antarctica for better, you know. I always thought that Yunzabit Heights was supposed to be Antarctica for Dragon Ball, but I guess not, you know, but as they were destroying it, you know, you could see that, like, it was turning from a cold land, you know, a cold area, into, like, a lava-covered, like, volcanic area, basically.
And then you have the greens and the blues of Goku and Broly, like, when Broly goes into a Super Saiyan or whatnot. Yeah. And they have that giant shaft of energy shooting out of the lava, and it's in the trailer. It's such a good scene. It looks... The use of color is so exceptional in this movie, and we haven't talked about it, and I think it's a somewhat important part, even though it's only the first 20 minutes, is all that stuff on Planet Vegeta was so good, too, even though it's stuff, you know, most of it. It's a story we know, even though it's altered. But we see so many, like, technologies that we haven't been shown, so much of the backstory that they compacted into like a nice, I think it's about 20 minutes. I'm not sure how long the intro is.
Yeah, 20 to 30, I think. It was actually longer than I expected when we take into account like when Broly and Paragus are on that desolate planet.
Right, but one thing I like is when Frieza comes and gives the scouters to the Saiyans and said, these are your new upgraded scouters, you know, they're better than those scanners you had. I'm like, oh, they had something before then, huh? And then you actually get to see them when they're in, well, I guess the nursery. I'm assuming that those little scouter scanners they had, those handheld things, were probably the old devices.
Yeah, I think that they got them from the
Maybe they were the
Tuffles.
new ones. I'm not sure if there's a line that said otherwise, but I was just assuming that was the old tech still, because it was, you know, it was the same day. They probably didn't get everything handed out. I could be wrong on that, but either way, if it was something new, it was still a new device we haven't seen.
I think it was basically the scouters that we see, you know, when they are on planet Namek and, you know, like the general scouters of Frieza Force used that they had introduced here. The thing is that before this, we were always told that the Tuffles were the ones who created the scouters. You know, even if you look at like the anime in Dragon Ball Z and then in GT, which I know we're not going to count, but still, they showed the Tuffles with the scouters on. So like they made it seem like that, but maybe like in this new version, the Tuffles had kind of scouters. I forget what they were calling them exactly in the film, but basically they had like a less advanced version, and then these new scouters are like the next big thing. And one of the things I did think was pretty cool was they actually had new scouters that Chilai and Leppo had, and they didn't explode, you know, like that was one of the things I was a little surprised by, because when they were scanning Broly and his power, like instead of like when they go all the way up and they just explode for no reason, you know, in typical Dragon Ball Z fashion, it just showed like lines and it was like, oh, it can't be measured. So I thought that was pretty interesting, although, you know, kind of like in Resurrection F, I was hoping that maybe they would like show up and scan like Krillin or like some of the weaker fighters.
You want to see some of these numbers?
Yeah, even though I'm sure that so many people would be annoyed because they'd be like,
well, the only
hey, it's Krillin.
That were in the film were people that they wouldn't be able to scan anyways, besides Bulma. Really?
Exactly. I want to see Mr. Satan's power level. Let's see if it's like off the charts and he just can't control it.
I'm sure his is probably something around 15 or 20, but
yeah.
Well, maybe even like higher than that. But I did also want to mention when they're on that planet, I cannot for life of me remember the planet's name, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. The barren planet where they obviously get sent to.
Yeah.
Broly and Paragus. Well, Paragus doesn't technically get sent, but when they land there, I know you're going to agree with me here, Mike. I got such huge alien vibes when he whipped out that flashlight. Is looking around.
That was cool.
My god, I just love that. Like, you look at Saiyans or any like relatively strong characters in Dragon Ball, you don't think of them searching for things like that. And he's out there. Paragus is out there searching with a flashlight, and you know he's got this mask on and stuff. It just something that felt refreshing in a way.
What do you feel?
And yeah, the spider designs are kind of goofy, but it's Dragon Ball. You kind of come to expect. They're not really an intimidating creature. I mean, of course it would be if it was in real life, but you know, just has got a stupid like face. But I loved how, you know, it wasn't like Broly as a baby that was killing the spiders. He must have gone grade ape and stuff. So there's so many little details in the dialogue that kind of just, they add life to the, I guess, new characters of Broly and Paragus, because they are new characters technically now, and just a lot of fleshing out of the dialogue. There's just so many little things, and I haven't seen it in Japanese. I don't know what the subs would be, but as far as the dub goes, I mean, I thought the dub was pretty good for the most part. I would even go as far as say exceptional. The dialogue that the dub had, ever was maybe added or left out, the script that they gave was good. You know, all the dialogue, all the performances.
Yeah, I have yet to see in the Japanese as well, so I'm not sure what lines, if any, were changed. You know, this for me seemed like it was a lot closer to the Kai dub than it was for Dragon Ball Super, where they're making like a lot of these meta jokes that likely wouldn't have been in the Japanese. So I think that this one seemed pretty accurate just based upon what I've heard. I saw it with a friend, and at first he thought it was a dub change that Frieza wanted to grow 5 centimeters taller, which is something we need to talk about too. And, you know, he thought it was a dub change, so I was like, no, it's actually something Toriyama came up with.
That's the real thing.
Which, I mean, for, you know, I don't know how you feel about that, Josh. Like,
it's
for
stupid,
me,
but it's a joke. It was a funny movie. Like, it was.
I mean, it's Dragon Ball. It makes sense that they're going to have, like, dumb humor at points, although I kind of wish it wasn't, like, the main inciting reason for all this happening, you know? Like, maybe at the end of the movie, for example, Frieza, like, he has his ability to wish on the Dragon Balls, and then he starts to think about about it, he's like, wait a second, do I want to be immortal or do I want something else? And then he's just like standing there and he's like, wait, I want to be taller. And then immediately before he wishes it, like, then they like make the other wish.
He explains his unusual reasonings. I mean, they're still kind of a little bit BS, but you know, it's explained why he wouldn't want to be immortal. So it's like, well, what else would Frieza wish for?
I just feel like maybe it would have worked better if it came if it came later in the film as opposed to like, you know, when it did, because then it's like, oh, that's why everything's happening, because basically General Red's motivation, you know, although I feel like he probably would have been a little taller. I kind of liked it because, you know what, it took the focus off the Dragon Balls and then just kept the focus on Broly. But you knew the Dragon Balls were there, but, you know, unless you had the movie spoiled, you know. Which I did.
You know, what I did too. Which spoilers in Dragon Ball never really bothered me that much. But you assumed that he probably wasn't going to get his wish, but maybe they'd get used in some other way, right?
Although if he did get his wish, it wouldn't be so...
You don't have that threat of him wishing for immortality.
Yeah.
That, I mean, kind of would have just been, honestly, a little bit overdone at this point, which I guess Frieza being in a movie or in the series is a little overdone at this point too, but I think after the Tournament of Power, he's kind of earned his place among recurring characters.
I love Frieza's character in Dragon Ball. You know, I never really thought he was the best villain in Dragon Ball. I mean, for me, that's always Cell.
Otherwise, obviously wrong. But.
Yeah. But, you know, when it comes down to, like, how Frieza's been used in Super, I think it's fun for the most part. You know, in the Tournament of Power, he was so delightfully evil, kind of like the Emperor in the Star Wars prequels, that he just makes everything around him more fun as a result. But at this point, he's kind of like turning into Mum-Ra from the Thundercats, where he, like, shakes his fist, "I'll get you next time, Goku!" And he like flies away.
People that are even going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Skeletor,
Thundercats, but
you know,
they're going to remember.
Basically like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, basically, where he isn't really defeated, like, insofar as he won't come back. So yeah, like, "I'll get you next time, He-Man," you know, basically like that. So, you know, Frieza was like the most like tension-filled villain in the entire franchise, you could argue. You know, a character who pushed our protagonist so far that Goku had to literally unlock a legendary form to beat him, and now he's kind of like a villain that's just like comedic, and, you know, he's like, "I'll get you next time, don't worry about it."
Well,
you know?
Yeah, he's almost like he's just mischievous now, trying to cause trouble.
Yeah, like really. A Joker-esque character, basically.
Yeah. Well, going back on how the movie was funny, and, you know, I want to say is that with me in movies, I never really usually laugh at movies. Even if they are really funny and I find it hilarious, I just won't laugh. Even if I'm internally realizing, like, yeah, it's really, really funny, I'm just not laughing at it. There's rare scenes where I actually, you know, burst out in laughter. I usually only laugh if we're, like, talking on Skype or, you know, I'm having interactions in the real world. I'll laugh about something. It's a strange thing, but I think other people probably have the same issue as me. With this movie, I've laughed out loud a few times. Maybe that's because I was with other people or not, but, like, the scene where Broly basically gets sick down Frieza.
Yeah, that was probably the funniest scene for me in the movie.
Like a total of an hour of, I guess.
That was pretty crazy. I mean, it shouldn't have lasted an hour just because, like, realistically, Broly could one-shot Frieza at that point.
Well,
but
Mike, you know what? I'm going to disagree with you because remember how durable Frieza was in Tournament of Power?
I mean, he took a Hakai in the Tournament of Power and didn't die, so...
Yeah, and Frieza's also, Mike, I think, what was it, Resurrection F? He was technically alive when he was in bits and pieces when he got revived, right?
Yeah.
So I guess his race must just be super durable. I think there's something in an interview about that, too, but, you know, it's been so long that I can't remember.
I mean, he was unconscious inside of a planet when it blew up, and he was still alive. So, like, there you go for Frieza's durability. It's pretty insane. So, you know, when it comes down to, like, positives, obviously, so far, we both think the movie is great, you know, like I gave it a high score, you know, the animation blows you away, the fights themselves are really great, you know, I want to talk briefly about the fights now that I think about it, like Vegeta,
there was fighting in the movie?
No, it's Dragon Ball, there's never fights in Dragon Ball, but
when I liked not the Junior Saga.
I liked the fight with Vegeta and Broly, where at first Vegeta was like beating Broly down, you know, like it was awesome. Pretty cool.
He was awesome in this movie.
Yeah, and
he got washed.
It was kind of weird though that Broly powered up that quickly to where he was able to fight Vegeta and overpower him when he was a god.
As he was fighting, he kind of just kept getting stronger, like especially when he was enraged. Remember, he was still getting beat by God Goku, and then it kind of flipped.
Yeah, I don't really know.
Stronger and stronger.
I've only seen the movie once, like you, so like I can't give like 100% accurate scaling for that situation. I feel like they might have made Goku seem stronger than Vegeta, not to mention he has like that new technique.
Well, they always do. But I think we should definitely revisit this when we can watch it again on Blu-ray or whatnot.
Yeah,
sure,
I might even see it in the theaters again, but I definitely want to see it in
something as important to us as
Blu-ray.
Dragon Ball. I feel like we have to revisit and give like the best, I suppose, analysis on it we can.
Exactly. You know,
You can't do that with the theater.
And one of the things is, like, unlike a movie like Resurrection F, which I rewatched just for, like, comparison purposes before this, I actually want to rewatch Dragon Ball Super Broly as opposed to Resurrection F, where it's like I'd rather just burn it in my fireplace or something.
In the world that likes Resurrection F, so.
Probably. I just watched it again, and I was just like, oh my god. I can remember why I didn't like this movie even in theaters, you know? But with Broly, like, I can tell that even though there's that theatrical experience with this movie, like, when I go and watch it on my own, when there's not the hype around me, I'm still gonna enjoy it. But there are some things here and there that I do feel like might have been kind of issues. And I did just touch on it, you know, like you said, you don't really care at this point, and, you know, both of us know that power scaling at this point is pretty much out the window. But, like, Broly going from, like, even weaker than basically base Goku and Vegeta to stronger than Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta seemed kind of insane, considering it was over the course of basically one long fight, you know?
Right.
So
I don't disagree with that, but for me, it's almost a non-issue at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of what the series has delved into, and it's kind of whether you accept it or not. And I mean, I would say I was one of the power scalers, but I would consistently upload whether people thought I did it good or not. It's something I definitely looked at a lot, and I mean, I know you still do as well, but it's just something I've kind of gone over to not look at it so much over the years, because it's not something that's going to always be consistent. It just can't be, especially when just as the series goes on, it just seems to get harder and harder for them to do it.
I do think it is funny, though, Josh, that, like, you know, for years we had to tell all of the Broly fans, Broly's power doesn't increase infinitely, you know, he wouldn't get, like, hundreds or thousands of times stronger over the course of one fight. And now we have the new Broly who would, so.
Well, there's the keyword is new Broly, though.
Exactly. I still have that why Broly isn't that strong video that, you know, is now getting more traffic because of this movie.
Well, yeah, now it's going to get more views, and they're going to think it's the new Broly, I guess.
Even though it came out in 2015.
For titling it that. That's just what happens when they essentially reboot a character.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you should update it so it has the new Broly on it, on the thumbnail.
That's
a joke, people.
Yeah, don't worry about it, guys. We'll do our own videos on the new Broly soon enough, trust me.
I'll tell you this, Mike. My biggest problem with this movie is a big one.
What's that?
They said that the planet was super hot. The planet they got stranded on was super hot when it was the sun was out, right? Super hot out is what they said. So why is it when Chile goes to the planet, she's wearing a coat, which she hasn't worn the whole movie?
Maybe they spent all of their animation budget on the previous scenes with her, you know, trying to take all of their time showing off her great personality.
They had to draw curves.
Yeah, so they're like,
hire an expert. Obviously, that was a joke for the coat because it's not really that big of a deal. It is a little odd, but
it is odd after seeing her for the rest of the movie.
Right. I really did not have many problems with this movie at all, to be honest with you. Again, seen it one time. You know, maybe there were some fanboy glasses on. I try to stay as unbiased as possible. But when you're so excited for something and it turns out to be so good, it's kind of hard to catch every flaw. But just upon the first viewing, for me, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed by this movie. And obviously, probably 80% of the people watching us have seen it already, so they'll probably agree with us. I know there's going to be people out there that don't like the movie. Probably the people who haven't liked Dragon Ball since Z anyways. But as far as story and just writing and pacing, this is the best thing that's come out of Dragon Ball in a very, very long time.
This
might be the best piece of Dragon Ball content that has ever came out as a whole.
Wow. That's a bold statement, Josh.
That is my honest opinion.
Broly, the best? What is this
Broly
magic?
Went from the worst villain to not the best, one of the best characters. He's a good character now. He's not amazing because he still has only had this one movie to develop, right? Yeah. And he, like you say, he's basically Tarzan. He has no grasp on what the real world even is, or I guess the real universe. So he's going to evolve rapidly as a character as the series goes on. He's going to learn things. He's going to change for sure. But this movie is just the total package.
There are two things I want to bring up real quick, though, Josh, before you give your final score on this film. The first one I feel like would be, what's your take on Dragon Ball Minus and how they incorporate it into this film, you know, and compared to like the actual Bardock special?
Let's see. Dragon Ball Minus was what? From like 2011, and probably most people watching the film probably hadn't read it. I'm sure a lot of people knew about the manga, but maybe a lot of people haven't actually checked it out. I'd say that this interpretation of that story story is much better than what the manga did. Bardock's still a different character than what he was in the special, the, you know, Bardock movie special, but I definitely would say I liked his character the best in this. You know, we could see Gine. She's kind of generic loving mother, really, but just fine, I guess. She's not in the movie very long. She has Mickey Mouse gloves on. So again, it just kind of goes with the whole backstory of the Saiyans. You know, Dragon Ball Minus got roped into it. I like being able to see Raditz and Vegeta out on a planet together as like kids.
That was cool.
That was pretty interesting, although some of my friends kind of complained about Raditz looking weird. But I think that it was a really good implementation of the story, much better than what the manga did. And I think whenever they do redo or, you know, kind of reboot these stories, which is what they did obviously with Resurrection F and Battle of Gods, discounting Resurrection F, I think that they've all, in most ways, been improvements on the stories when they redo them. You know, Resurrection F arc obviously was, it's not good. It's not good. They added stuff, but boy, oh boy, that...
I thought Dragon Ball Super began with the Universe 6 tournament. What are you talking about?
Could you imagine if it began? I think I did a video on this, but it would have been a perfect beginning if it literally started off with just Champa showing up, like, right there. Well, it was like episode 26 or something like that. Would have been, like, the perfect point, and they just, you know, they didn't. Because, you know, no one saw Battle of Gods, apparently, or Resurrection F, so they had to make sure people knew about it, right?
I guess so.
People are going to wonder if they're going to redo Broly and Super, and I would highly doubt it, because I think they know that everybody saw this movie.
I certainly hope not.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I certainly hope not. And the only other issue I could think of, Josh, would have to be the music. Specifically the music during, like, the final fight, because I've heard a lot of people saying they did not care for the announcer and the chanting. What do you think about that?
I'm indifferent to it, but as far as the actual overall music, you know, it's something I haven't thought of because I guess, at least again, upon first viewing, it's not something that stuck out, the music. The song Blizzard is not my style of music.
Go,
for me.
Go, Broly, Gogeta, Gogeta.
It's kind of one of those, yeah, go Broly, something kind of meme-om. I have fun with it, but it is a little silly. That was more, I think, of a Japanese-centric thing for the theaters. I'm sure the Japanese audiences in the theaters love that stuff, but for me, I mean, the music, especially coming off of, like, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, I mean, those had great soundtracks. Obviously, the song Resurrection F was not made for the movie necessarily, but its inclusion was really good and nothing musically really stood out in this movie. But that could change upon watching it further. Again, I said I was in a loud theater, so I might have missed some stuff. But as far as dialogue, I mean, I heard everything.
But Josh, what would you give this out of 10 if you were going to give it a final score?
I kind of like to rock the 20-point scale, so, you know, like 8.5, 9, 9.5, that kind of stuff. I don't like doing the flat 9, 10. But I've been thinking about this. A 10 would be a masterpiece for me. So that'd be something like John Carpenter's The Thing, Aliens, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Is it as good as those? No. But is it a really damn enjoyable and good movie? Yes. So I'm definitely leaning towards a 9.5 for me.
Yeah, I can
be honest with you.
Yeah, I can see that.
That could go down to a 9 upon further viewings, but an initial impressions is a 9.5. It's a damn fine movie. And, you know, being a Dragon Ball fan, obviously, maybe inflates that score. I'm reviewing it as a Dragon Ball fan and as a movie critic, even though I can't really call myself a movie critic. We have better taste than most movie critics.
That's true. But yeah, you guys can check out my rating that I gave in my other non-spoiler review, but it was a little bit lower than Josh's, which I'm sure so many of you guys already expected. But let us know your own thoughts down below in the comments about what you thought of Dragon Ball Super Broly, what you would rate it out of a 10. Also, check out Dragon Ball Nation, check out my other review, it's in the end screen and description. If you're new to this channel, then don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications so that you can see all of my videos right away when they come out, and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.